Hello YouTube and the Infinite Magicraid community. Gandalf here, and here to bring you to the top in Infinite Magicraid gameplay. So today we're going to be focusing on one of the fundamentals in PvP, which is to understand the different roles that your hero fill in a PvP team. This knowledge will not only help you focus on the right heroes to build, regardless of the progression of the account. So it doesn't matter if you're starting out, seasoned, free to play or a whale, you really have to think about the role that the hero fills in your team. And with this general knowledge, it doesn't matter if there are hero skill changes or brand new heroes coming out. With this knowledge in mind, you should be good to figure out what heroes are worth focusing on. Um, as we go through the video, I'll talk about what are some key considerations to see what will make a hero really good in fulfilling one of these particular roles. And right now, with introduction of the 5v5 global tournament, there's a lot of diversity in the PvP meta, and you do need to build multiple heroes to cover multiple roles, like multiple heroes to cover the same role, actually. So we'll dive into it, and I know you're probably staring at like a paint screen, and you're like, well, last day I said I'm a notepads guy, so today you'll learn that I'm also a little bit of a paints guy because it's nice and simple, and it just simply gets the points across. And if I missed any heroes or you have questions about any particular heroes, feel free to leave something in the comments below for discussion and I'll get around to replying to you. So without further ado, let's dive right into it. One of the key roles to fill in your PvP composition is the damage dealer. If you don't have a damage dealer, it could work in defense where you try to last 300 turns and survive. I have seen it work, but you try not to do that, especially, I mean, it will never work in an offensive team, right? So when we look at damage dealers, there's a couple, and as you look at the heroes on the screen, I'll go from left to right, left being probably top recommend, more preferred or recommended heroes, then to the ones on the right, and I'll go through the rationale for some of them. In the current meta right now, due to the introduction of Lydia and a lot of the changes to really prevent direct damage, Nita right now kind of shines on top, being damage over time, and having a lot of high sustained damage over time. So especially at E3, when you pair it with something like Focus, it can pretty much clean kill any defensive team right through it. And every turn she takes, the counter goes up, giving a free cast of the second skill, which does a lot of damage as well. The other one, I think people are not paying as much attention to now as when Anna first got her rework. Um, what's special about Anna is Anna's skill 3, so her ultimate, I guess, or people call it skill 4, but I would say just say the ultimate. It does detonation damage, which is 300% of her base attack. This damage is just factoring through mastery, and what's special about it is when you're doing any sort of these dot type damages, it completely ignores defense and it doesn't factor in consolidation, which is something Lydia has, and you will start to see a little bit more of that in the meta right now. So give it a try. You just really need to boost her attack up. So for example, if you're using your own Lydia, right, just simply giving the team attack up. Her own skill 2 actually gives the team AoE attack up now too. So if you can find a way to recycle her last turn or do a pre-setup, and we'll talk about that, using a skill 2 right into a skill 3, you're doing upwards of millions of damage, cleaning any team through detonation. And I know a lot of you are probably wondering, can we see some of the showcase for some of these damage dealers seen in action? So I think what I'll do is in a future video where we're actually going through specific compositions, you'll get to see some of these heroes in action. Today it's pretty long list as we're going to have to go through a lot of heroes and talking about their pros and cons and what you want to focus on building as you look at your own pool and see which of these heroes are actually available for yourself. Um, In the next section, what I find about the next two heroes, Agatha and Brandhild, is they're your bruiser type damage dealer, which means they themselves can take a lot of beating as well. They have high resistance. Agatha at E1 just straight out is immune to any controls. At uh, when she has a shield on. This allow you to not worry too much about protecting your damage dealer and be able to go straight through and just do a lot of damage over time and slowly chip away at the enemy team. So Agatha and Brynhild both bring a lot to their kit. Agatha has very high sustained DPS, short cooldown on skill 2, and as you use it, you're gaining more max HP, which will add to the survivability and the damage output. Right now, you pretty much see these two heroes in every high-end team, and they're guaranteed heroes. So just progress on Faction Abyss, you will get them, and invest in events. Eventually, you'll get enough mythic shards to get brain healed. I know a lot of people recently said, "Oh, Lydia is gonna bring an end to brain healed." There's only one Lydia. There's 5 teams. You're gonna still see a lot of brain healed play, especially at high-end gameplay. Then next comes the squishy glass cannons. You got Jilliman, you got Margarita. Margarita is a free hero available to everyone, and believe it or not, she still packs quite a punch multiplier wise. If you actually calculate her multiplier is in the order of I believe 600. I think it's 720, so 200% from the passive, and then 130 times 4 for E1. So 720% multiplier as an AoE, that's higher than pretty much any of your other heroes. If you get her to, I think either E2 or E3, there's additional buff to increase her critical damage for the entire team as well. So a lot of damage there for Margarita. Just pair her with Abyssidon. Usually that's enough to cleave any medium team. If you got a super tanky team, we're going to get to the damage amplification in a sec, but you put in the defense break, tenacity down, that's a one-shot KO for anything. And it will hit through the Santa Apple. I know a lot of people worry about that, about these damage dealers. Um, is going through the Santa Apple, dealing with Bunny's revive. Um, it will just hit right through the Santa Apple due to the multiple hit. Why do I put Margarita over Belton? It's for that exact reason. Belton hits like a truck, hits very hard, but it's a single hit. So if they have Santa Apple on at Santa E3, you'll see a lot of that higher end gameplay. Not gonna work. You're not gonna kill them in one shot, then it's over. They will come back and they will wipe you out. A similar problem with Bully. Bully is is really good if you can get a kill because it will just go again. And the other part is about great about Bully is if Bully gets damaged below a certain point, he or she immediately takes a turn, allowing you to have great counterplay and just wipe out your opponent with the arrogance passive. So this is kind of the AoE damage dealer section. And again, I would say, definitely make sure you have your Agatha and Brainhill built. Margarita surprisingly is accessible to everyone. It's still a really solid hero from a DPS perspective. I think there was a free Ana for everyone a while ago through the month-end event, and Nita is a mythic hero, so it's available for everyone. So if you're focusing on Advanced Arena, getting your guild arena progression up, helping your guild, I would say Nita, Agatha, and Brandhild are your 3 key DPS heroes you want to make sure you focus on. All right, then we get into a little bit of more of the niche damage dealers. So I would say these tips are probably more helpful for someone who have less access to the game in terms of resources, whether they're starting out new, they don't have all the mythic shards yet to get some of these mythic heroes, and they got lucky and they got a couple of pulls. So you gotta quite a few interesting uh, mix and plays here that you can take a look at. So first, Lucifer has been a long-standing hero. Very high sustained single target DPS. You pair it with something like Ben Austin and Whistler today, like where you're just abusing it being the highest attack hero and abusing it to have joint attacks. It's going to do a lot of damage. Put a counter attack on it with Catherine. It will shred any team just one at a time. The biggest weakness to Lucifer, and that's why we don't see Lucifer as much as we saw Lucifer maybe 6 months ago, it's really due to the fact that Santa's Apple is so prominent nowadays, and Lucifer just don't one-shot enemy heroes like it used to. Nonetheless, Lucifer, you will still see Lucifer quite a bit in in threes, in Advanced Arena, and also in the Championship right now. Lucia has gotten a lot better since the rework. It has the one-shot potential once you hit E3 where you trigger the bleed stacks right away. Stats requirement, I'll say it's a little bit harder to build than Lucifer, but Lucia has a lot more use in PvE now, especially in Elemental Cities, so more people might have her than Lucifer. Nidro is another hero that does a lot of damage because one of the best damage dealer that's a bleed type. I treat him more like a single target as much as the label on him is AoE is the ultimate is really random and it's hard to really guarantee a AoE kill. You usually click on one target and hope the single target gets a lot of hit and dies. Then you got the next three hero, which has very interesting mechanics and got really interesting interactions with Lydia right now, the new limited hero. And it can actually get quite broken because Lydia is guaranteed to go first, right? And then Tifia is going to do the AoE automatically if you go first. And then Olga will pursue whatever target you do a proactive skill attack on. So imagine you put all these heroes together with Lydia, even if it's just a E0 Lydia, which I hope many of the viewers here are lucky enough to pull one from their pity. You can try this composition. It's kind of fun. It will crush any squishy team that's trying to do a speed cleave. So basically turn one, you will see basically your Lydia go, and then Tifia AoE, and Olga will hit one more time whatever target you click. And if you happen to have a Lysander, Lysander is going to go and do a random attack as well. So it's kind of broken in the sense that you can get so many heroes to just instantaneously attack with you having guaranteed first turn, which means you don't have to waste any speed stats on any of these heroes and just build them full out crit attack, crit damage. You'll be amazed at the results. Give that a try. And then I got two kind of honorable mentions here, Andreas and Hez, because I know a lot of people might have got these two heroes built for PvE purposes. Andreas has damage reduction against Red Mark and also against Yellow Faction. So against both of these, sorry, Yellow Mark. So against Force Mark. So both of these. So Andreas will be really good against some of the commonly seen heroes like Brynhild and Agatha. His ultimate, if you get it to E3, which many of you probably will have if you're using him in PvE a lot, is he's going to hit really hard. He should be able to one-shot equally, kind of, if you're kind of a Kraken, your Andreas probably will one-shot a Kraken, Brynhild without. So it's pretty solid in terms of on his own, especially pair up with another HP burner. You will see a lot of Andreas at high level gameplay with O'Grady's as people get her from Elemental City. So there's the honorable mention for him there. The other one's Hez, because I think with some of the new servers, newer players, if you manage to finish the campaign, I think within 5 days or something, you get a free Hez. Hez back then used to be really strong. It's really kind of fallen out of flavor. Um, in PV, you don't see Hez in PvP anymore. Like maybe at lower level gameplays. What I'll say about Hez is if you can combo it with say a Quinlan and or something even like a Sigmund where you do or Milia, just do AoE dots on everybody, then you trigger it. It's still a very powerful combo. But for the most part, people nowadays are gonna have pandas everywhere. Um, Catherine's probably going to end up going twice and cleansing 2 layers of the dots off. So it's really hard to get your heads to go and to be able to not get cut in between there. So for the amount, the effort for setting up, there are way better composition you can go for. But again, if you don't have a lot of heroes, and especially if you're trying, in championship, and I highly encourage everyone to do it because the changes they had recently, if you're even top 1,000, you get a free uh, choice chest of purple runes, which is pretty nice, especially if you're starting out and you can't farm that high abyss. That's a really nice reward every 2 weeks too. So you will probably still see Hez and Quinlan combos, even all the way probably up into the rank, like 200 ranks probably. So yeah, and a lot of people have invested into their Hez because it's like the best PvE damage dealer for the longest time. You can still use your Hez in PvP as well. So that kind of wraps up the damage dealer section. I know that's a lot to cover, but hopefully you have at least 5 or more of these heroes you can invest in to get your damage dealers going, one for each team. Um, Often it's much better to um, put a damage amplifier with a damage dealer as opposed to trying to build 2 damage dealers. Resource-wise, they use different gear, and it's much easier to farm or to optimize your gear that way for them. So damage dealers before, I mean, if it's either mastery plus effect hit for the damage over time heroes, or it's attack crit damage crit. So you're focusing really on like your wild stats, your 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 crit, your attack, or your crit damage sets. If you're nice enough to be able to get some of the combo sets like Slay sets, that's probably the best for all of them because Slay set, you know, crit damage is something you need on all of these direct damage dealer heroes. So on to with damage amplification is really how do you double or even triple the damage output of some of your heroes. And here is where the math in Infinite Magicraid gets a little bit interesting. I would say damage over time heroes scale linearly with their stats. So for example, if you double your mastery, so for example, going from 100% mastery to 200% mastery, so that's really probably like a 50% output in damage. Or if you're increasing your attack by 40%, yeah, you're going to see 40% more damage. But when it comes to direct damage dealer, the formula gets very interesting in terms of how it interacts with defense. You will actually see more return on the damage because it seems to be more of a subtractive function there. So if the opponent's defense is really high, you benefit more from piercing and you benefit more from the defense break than your attack up. So you can give that a little bit of a test and see. But what I'm saying here is, if you say let's use the example. Probably everybody has a margarita. You're better off in, say, um, defense break your enemy and put tenacity down than to use a focus and make her use her ult twice. Pretty sure you get more damage out of the defense break and tenacity down. Just the way that the math kind of works out. So having said that, let's look at all the different amplifiers we have here and what kind of amplification do they do and how do they scale. So the first one is Bunny, Esther. Esther has been around for a little while now, and at exclusive 2 is when her increase to direct damage dealt goes from scaling up to 50% to 80%. And when you get her to E3, it becomes a very nice combo where not only you get a turn boost for your target, but also you're able to now um, choose one of the eggs. So in this case, you probably want to pick the red one where you increase piercing. So you got an 80% more direct damage. You got piercing, and if you kill a target, you go again. So putting something like Bunny with Jilliman, and that pretty much gives Jilliman 2 turns guaranteed, and it will pretty much just it's sort of like space into Bunny and then Jilliman. And you also cleanse off whatever debuff. If you choose to not use red, you want to use blue. You forego the extra turn, but you can also cleanse, use it to cleanse. But the damage amplification there is like 1.8 times of your base damage for sure, plus the extra turn. It's pretty high there. The next most commonly used one is Bissident, and everybody has access to a Bissident because it's an epic. You're pretty sure to pull one sooner or later. So when Bissident has 2 pros to it, and I'll say is not only is it used for turn meter, and we'll talk about the turn meter benefits later, but the amplification to get uh, I think what 40% attack up, 50% crit rate, and 50% crit damage. That saves you so much stat, making it easy for you to build your direct damage dealers. It's pretty easy to stack up to like 260 to 300% crit damage with like 45k attack. Like even if you're like a non-whale account on your margarita, just use like crit damage sets or use attack up set. Don't worry about the fancy combination forge sets. Just use those. It's enough. Just focus on attack and crit damage and on your damage dealer, and just let Bissident take care of all the stats and all the speed issues, and you watch that damage skyrocket like about 2 to 3 times from that buff alone versus without it. Whistler is another solid addition to it because it transfers 30% of its base attack over. Now, this 30%, you got to be mindful of it. This 30% is actually added to the base, and when Whistler gives the 40% buff to it, 40% is also added, multiplied on top of the additional component. So if you have like say 50k attack, like you can build a pure attack or something, right, on Whistler, 50k attack. So 100, so 15,000 gets added to Margarita. And remember what I said earlier is because there's a more of a subtraction kind of type effect when it interacts with the target's defense. This added 1500 is not like going from 50,000 to 65, so that's like about a 30%. Your damage is not going to go up 30%. Your damage is probably going to go up maybe around 50% or more, depending on how high your opponent's defense is. So really here, don't think it's just 30% extra. This is really going to amp up your damage quite a bit with just raw additional stats there. It's like a stat stick. And I put here honorable mention. And why I say Whistler is more of an important stat stick than E2 Jack, which transfers up to potentially, I think, was it 60 or 80% mastery? Because it over because mastery scales linearly. Because the way attack and defense interacts, you get more of an exponential effect for increasing your attack stat a lot. So that's something to be mindful. And of course, Whistler has other benefits of going twice, giving the team attack up, plus the option of doing a joint attack on basic with your highest attack hero, or choosing to do a AoE stun. So if you're doing something with a Lucifer, obviously going skill 2 into skill 1 is better. If you're going with AoE hero, maybe skill 1 to skill 3 is better to just try to get for the stun or even the defense break if you have exclusive 3. Focus allows your hero to take a second turn with all of the cooldown reset plus the attack up. At exclusive 3, you got a 50% chance of taking another turn. So pretty much comboing with any of the high damage dealer with ultimates above is a huge deal. Focus into Nita is the biggest AoE damage. Focus into Ana works great. Focus into Jilliman. Focus, into Belton. All of these work really well. Focus into any of the single damage dealers, probably not so much, but the AoE it's pretty much game over, clean sweep with focus there. Not much to be said there. The other part about focus we'll probably talk a little bit about later, maybe in the turn meter, and maybe is he actually gets turn meter when you kill someone or someone on your team dies. It actually boosts turn meter for everybody. So that's something a lot of people forget about. So same with Bissident. So those are two you want to think about a little bit when we talk about turn meter down below. Then you got the next few heroes that all have the same commonality. So Allcaster, Pauper, Amlik, and Hoff. And Hoff you needed at E3 to do this. Is you can quickly defense break and tenacity down target, which is like anywhere between 2 to 3% multiplier for your damage dealer for the amount of damage to go through. Pretty much, if you can defense break down and you can defense down tenacity down a target, your AoE cleave is going to just wipe out the entire team, especially the multi-hitting ones. It will hit through the apple. It's really great. So Allcaster, not only does it do both of those things, it also gives your team all attack up. That's at exclusive 2. Pauper, you can do, it has that ability at E0, but if you get it to E3, not only at defense break, tenacity down, but also reduce the turn meter. The skill 2s also do a strip. When you got E2, it's really easy for him to take 2 turns in a row, so super helpful. Amlik, same thing. Interesting idea is you can actually steal turn meter from someone to get like up to 70 or 75% turn meter, or was it? And then you can try to get another turn off of him to do the AoE defense break. And Hoff at E3 automatically does that defense breakdown. So a very nice combo here that makes Hoff E3 actually really good is if you don't have a bunny, for example, you can't get an easy second turn. Like let's just say Margarita Clee with Bissident and you got a Hoff on the team. What you will for sure is going to kill the target with defense breakdown and tenacity down. Then Margarita can get a skill 2 in to kill whatever is left. And Hoff, of course, will, and because Hoff, casts the defense down and tenacity down on the highest attack target, usually it's a squishy one, you're guaranteed to then trigger his passive again and defense break something else. So really good. And shout out for Karzak. I've seen him use it on his comp. Even it's been pretty effective against Brain Hill comps. So good for him for, showing that to the world first. Okay, so that's kind of on the damage amplification front. So I'll probably end this first video here, and then we'll go into the rest in more of a part 2. All right, thanks so much, and tell me in the comments below what you, in terms of what you liked about the video, and if you would like to support me, please click like, subscribe. Thank you.